Terapia regresiva y mindfulness. Terapeutas conscientes. Por Chelo Rodríguez.
Regressive Therapy and Mindfulness. Conscious Therapists. By Chelo Rodríguez.
Before starting, I would like to share with all of you a fact from the World Health Organization that tells us that around 70% will experience a potentially traumatic event in their life that will cause them great suffering. Of this 70%, only between 1 and 2% will go for consultation. Here we also enter the therapists, who believe we have the necessary tools to resolve our own emotional problems without the need to go to other fellow therapists. As my great teacher Ramirez Calles says, a society without conscience is a society without empathy, without understanding, and this generates a sick society where relationships between people generate a great mass of suffering. Well, good afternoon. My name is Consuelo Rodriguez, and I work holistically, integrating regressive therapy and mindfulness into my knowledge of psychology knowledge. I have been a member of the Spanish Association of Regressive Therapies for just over 5 years, and I collaborate with them in any way I can. And I am also part of the Psychology and Mindfulness Working Group at COPAU. I am also a member of the Spanish Association of Psychologists specializing in mindfulness, and I have been providing information as a mindfulness instructor for over 15 years. And I have merged these two techniques, regressive therapy and mindfulness, to talk about the topic we are going to give this afternoon, which is about conscious therapists integrating regressive therapies and mindfulness. This talk will consist of 2 parts. The first, where we will explain in the simplest way possible how to achieve self-knowledge, and the second, where we will put into practice what we have learned through a simple meditation. I would like you to stop for a few seconds to think about why we dedicate ourselves to this profession. We are all aware that we want to provide a service, and we will also all agree that this profession is totally vocational. But the desire to help and provide service, in addition to having a strong knowledge of the technique and a lot of experience, does not make us good therapists, because we all carry a backpack with our beliefs, with our judgments, with our values, that if we do not practice self-observation, will undoubtedly affect us within the therapy. The goal of all therapists is for our clients to heal, that they find some peace and that they are a little happier, but we will not always be able to achieve it. There is no 100% success rate for all therapists, since each day we wake up with feeling differently emotionally and mentally. That's why self-observation is the essential tool to prevent our shadows from being projected onto others' healing. Our goal is to accompany the client in their healing, but it is the client themselves who explores and makes sense of their own world. What are the most common mistakes that we therapists can make? Keep in mind that in our profession, ego can set many traps for us. Let's talk only about the most common ones. In some cases, therapists can feel helpless when we don't know how to help our clients. We must be aware that we do not help solve problems. What we do is accompany our clients until they can get to the root of their symptoms. In other cases, It is our experience and our expectations that lead us to err on the side of anticipation. We think that therapy will follow a path, and when it doesn't follow that path, we can become frustrated and end up with incomplete therapies. There are therapists with an excess of empathy. This means that I resonate so much with the client's case that this case pulls me emotionally. This way, I can't help properly. One of the most common traps of the ego is to imitate great masters. At first, it is insecurity, but over time it turns into fear of failure, and we become dependent on that way of working. The therapies are incomplete then because we are not connecting internally with our clients. This does not mean that we adulterate the technique, nor that we do not allow ourselves to be advised and guided by the experience of great masters. It means that each of us must contribute what is genuine in ourselves and enrich the therapy by bringing out the best in each of us. To handle potential errors arising from ego traps, we can turn to several resources. One of them would be supervision with other colleagues, attending talks, symposium courses, and also share with them your way of working. In my case, the international course on regressive therapy has been of great help to me, where I have been able to see how colleagues from different countries have worked. The second would be to ask for feedback from your own clients. This can only be achieved if a climate of complete trust has been created between the therapist and the client. It is not easy for a client to make a criticism even if it's constructive, but for us it is a very important information base to continue growing as a therapist. The third source, and perhaps the most important for the talks that we are giving right now, is self-observation. It is very important for the therapist to detect the emotional reactions he or she is experiencing when in therapy with his or her client. If there is a strong emotional connection with that case, we call it countertransference, and in the face of this, we have the obligation to self-regulate, and every therapist must be sensitive to their internal processes and be aware of the reactions they are experiencing in each case. Self-observation must also be accompanied by sufficient self-regulation so that our own problems cannot interfere with the treatment. Carl Rogers argued that the most important thing for a therapist is to create a work environment where three assumptions are met. The first is unconditional acceptance of the client, where they can express themselves freely and without judgment. The second is empathy, which makes the client fully trust and feel understood. And the third is authenticity or congruence, which means that the therapist himself expresses how he feels throughout the therapy. Luis Cosolino, a great therapist, tells us that therapists never stop growing. We never stop growing by observing our clients in therapy, but above all, by observing ourselves. And Cosolino also says a phrase that I use as a mantra. He says that each therapy gives us countless opportunities to recognize and acknowledge how ignorant we are. What do we call conscious therapists? Conscious therapists are those professionals who have a profound capacity for self-knowledge. And how do we reach this self-knowledge? Imagine that we have a big mirror where everything about us is reflected. How we are, our tastes, our wounds, our emotions, what we think, our good sides are reflected, but also those that we don't value as much and are usually hidden. But it's not just how we see ourselves and what's reflected, but also how we react. Sometimes our mind plays tricks on us, and when we look in that mirror, we only see what we like about ourselves, and we ignore what embarrasses us or what does not reflect the identity we want to reflect in others. That's why self-knowledge is a path that requires a lot of courage. It's not easy to focus on our shadows. Okay, so how do we get to that self-knowledge? To reach self-knowledge, it is necessary to pay attention to the present moment, what we feel, what we think, and do the rest without any kind of judgment, simply being present. To understand it better, imagine that you are lost and your only point of reference is the peak of a mountain peak, but there are more mountains around, and you can't tell one from another. We take some binoculars and start focusing, and little by little you change the focus until you find a specific mountain and find your way. Mindfulness is like these binoculars that makes you focus on one thing at a time so that you are aware of what you are perceiving. Self-knowledge is then a product of observation, of paying attention. It is the deep understanding of your own identity. If you don't observe yourself honestly and sincerely, your idea of yourself is likely to be biased. As Daniel Siegel said, mindfulness should be a basic training in the mind of any therapist. Now, meditating is not easy. It's not about closing your eyes and waiting for something magical to happen. Some mistakenly believe that meditation is that inner voice that is continually telling us what we are perceiving. But that is nothing more than mental chatter. It is what we know as an internal commentator. It is nothing more than an illusion created by your ego, since it is your history, your story, your beliefs, your judgments. The internal commentator will always know everything about you, and it's easy to get confused with the idea that that's what we are. That's why it's not easy to realize that that voice is not you. It's not easy to distinguish because that voice is familiar. It knows the whole intimate story. But just because it's familiar and intimate doesn't mean it's true. Recognizing that its internal commentator is part of our ego is the first step toward self-knowledge. When we reach this step, we become mere observers. There are no comments, there are no judgments. There is simply presence. There is no longer a separation between the observer and the observed. There is a unit. there is no time, there is no self. When we recognize that inner observer, the separation between you and the other is a mere illusion. The more you live from the observer, the more compassionate you become, because you realize that others are living from the internal observer. And this generates a lot of empathy and compassion. When you become an observer, the therapist truly listens, enters into synergy with the expanded consciousness of the client. There is no longer just a client and a therapist. There emerges an energy where healing occurs. Okay, so we finished the first part of the talk, and now we're going to move on to the meditation. So start getting comfortable. I welcome you to this meditation where we will discover how to connect with our consciousness. Take a seat and make yourself as comfortable as possible. Place your hands on your knees and gently close your eyes. Be aware of all the sounds in the room. All are welcome. They are all welcome. Now, focus your attention on your breathing without any kind of control. Just feel the air entering through your nose and exiting through your mouth at your own pace. And without changing anything. Observe the natural flow of your breathing. And how the air enters and leaves your body. Watch the inhalation and observe the exhalation. Don't change anything, just observe. This is our only task, to observe. Now, become aware of your body and observe yourself for a few moments. You can bring your attention to the part of your body that is in contact with the chair and how you feel your weight on it. Now observe your feet in contact with the ground, and if you feel any discomfort or tingling. Pay attention to your arms as they rest on your knees, and observe your face and head. And now, observe your whole body as a single unit and feel it. Now, bring your attention to that observing awareness. first on your breath and then on the rest of your body. You are aware of your consciousness that perceives both your body and your breathing. If you perceive the body, you are the one who perceives. You know you have a body. You feel it. You are the observer of that body. So you are not the body. You are the observer. You are aware of what you think, and that a thought comes and goes, and your consciousness knows that you think. You are the one who perceives, the one who observes your mental world, and is part of you. You have thoughts, and you know it, but you are the one who observes them, the one who knows what you are thinking. You are not, therefore, the thought. You are the consciousness that observes the thought. Now observe your emotions. You are able to be aware of them. When you are happy or sad, you feel it. You are aware. You are the one who perceives those emotions, although you live them very vividly as your own, and they completely flood you. But you are not the emotion. You are the observer who perceives. So you can't be the perceived. Now, bring your attention to everything you can perceive about what defines you. Your relationships with your loved ones, your material possessions, your social role, your job. Take a few moments to explore all those things that you can perceive with your consciousness and perceive them as part of yourself. Be aware that when you perceive them, you are none of that. None of that belongs to you or says who you are, because you are the perceiver, the witness. He who observes everything around you, both in the external world and in your internal world. What do you experience when you know that you are the observer and not the observed? Ask yourself, then, who am I? Ask yourself this with intention. And don't try to analyze or even answer. I means the true nature of the human being. I, without anything else, without a name, without a body, without labels. Without emotion or thought, just me. The seed that is within each of us in the form of all-seeing consciousness. You are nothing in particular, and you are everything at the same time. And now, feeling the connection with your being, with the consciousness that perceives everything. Feel that you are the observer and nothing more.